If I were to ask you, and in essence I am, what is something that makes you happy? What might your reply be? What makes you happy? That you have a job? That your sister-in-law is not coming for Christmas? Your favorite cookies? Oatmeal and raisin? And I'm going to bake you a dozen of those? What makes us happy? And that's often external things outside of ourselves. Seeing someone, or maybe in the case of your sister-in-law, you don't see her. Cookies can make us happy. New blouse can make us happy. New skirt can make us happy. And all of that's good, and we need happiness in our lives. But that's external. If I were to ask you, what makes you joyful and worthy of rejoicing, what would your answer be to that question? And that question and that answer has to come from within our own hearts and souls. The chocolate chip cookies that I bake you will be eaten and they're gone. But what is it in our hearts, our souls, that would say to you and me, this is joyful. I can rejoice over this. I can give thanks for this from the bottom of my heart. Two very different dynamics. The church gives us Gaudete Sunday. The word means rejoice. And what is it you and I may be rejoicing about at this time of year? If we can put aside a little of the commercial madness, if we can put aside a little bit of all the external stuff that comes with these two joyful seasons of Advent and Christmas, and we go inside and look in our hearts, what might cause us to rejoice? The scriptures give us very good information today about those possibilities. The letter to St. James was written to an early group in the church, faith community, mainly Jewish converts to Christianity, in the round of the year 60. And in that, whoever wrote that letter tells us to remember, look at the farmer. He or she waits for the produce to come up. It takes time. It takes good rain, early rain, late rain. We all know that, sun, soil. And they were admonished, be patient. How many of us would claim that patience is the most treasured value we have? Not many of us, probably. Because sometimes it's hard to be patient. Because we want things done quickly. We want them answered. We even want God to get with it. To answer things quickly, like we want them answered. I wonder, in your life's experience, have you ever asked God for something, prayed in all sincerity and honesty, and God chose to wait a while to answer you? And then when God answered, it wasn't what you expected. The patience that we even sometimes need with God, because we're quite apt at telling God how to do it. But be patient. And while we're being patient, be very careful, James tells the community. This is a pastoral letter, probably the most pastoral letter in the whole New Testament. Be careful in your judging of each other. And make your heart firm, not calloused, but firm, because the judge stands at the gate. So be careful and be patient with yourself and each other. I think so often when we really get mad, we're madder at ourselves than we are anybody else. I didn't do it right. I didn't get it done on time. I wish I'd done it better. Oh, I forgot that. Okay. But in our rejoicing, in desiring what we want and what we may possess, the church tells us on this Gaudete Sunday, be patient in your watching and your waiting. Because we'll celebrate the reality that Christ was born in time. We also continue every day to prepare for his coming again. And so how is it as we wait? What gives us signs that this God is with us? And God is always present, and God never abandons us. It is you and I who move away because we get irritated because we didn't get our answer exactly like we wanted it or as quickly as we wanted it. We'll think, well, God doesn't care. I would challenge that. God cares deeply. But you and I have to cooperate with this plan as well. That's in essence is what Jesus is saying in this 11th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. And I hope no one has offense at me. What he's saying there is, I hope your loving me will never cease and that you will not stumble on your way to me. Do we stumble on our way to God and then our rejoicing goes down the tube? I think we have to look at that. This magnificent reading from the prophet Isaiah, it begins in the Isaiah writings of what is known as the Book of Consolation. And just listen to the words, and it says that. The parched earth will rejoice and bring forth beautiful flowers. What doesn't seem possible will happen. The crux of the reading and today's liturgy comes in the next few verses. The eyes of the blind will be opened. The ears of the deaf will be made clear. The lame will leap like a stag, and the mute tongue will sing. All promises that are part of the renewal and the reversal of earthly life on occasion and the glory of the kingdom, whose messenger we wait in hope at Christmas. We all can experience physical difficulties and challenges. We know that, and age is not the only variable there. But let's talk more about the promise of God to never leave us in our spiritual lives. Have you and I ever been blind? And I pray, God, we don't have that physical shortcoming, that lack of vision. But have we ever been blind because we thought we knew the answer? Have we ever been blind because we did not like him or her? Because they came from a different country? They spoke a different language? Their way of life might not coincide with mine or yours? And we couldn't see them because we were blind in our spirit. How's our hearing? I don't want to hear anything you have to say to me. Ever said that to your spouse? We won't ask you to raise your hands on that one. If any of you have had children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, you know between the age of 12 and 21, they think you're absolutely stupid and they're not going to listen to a word you say. They are deaf to you. We were deaf too, but we don't tell them that part, okay? We don't own up to everything. Because I don't want to hear it. I know what I'm doing. I'm smart. I'm young. I'm invincible. I'll never forget one time when I lived in Cincinnati, Ohio, and my assignment was in an emergency room in a Catholic-oriented hospital. And my shift was 2:30 till midnight. I'll never forget a young man brought into the emergency room who had had his arm amputated because his buddies were speeding down the street. He had his arm out the window, and the stop sign on the corner took his arm off. It's a terrible thing. And he said to me, "Father, is God going to be mad at me?" "No, but God wished you hadn't been so stupid." But at 18, he got the picture. We've all been there in some fashion too. We're not exempt. And what about falling over our own 2 feet? Have you ever done that? I don't mean literally, but have you ever you thought you knew where you were going and how you were going to get there, and you had it all planned out, and you fell over your own 2 feet because of arrogance or ignorance or a combo? And what about the time when our hearts have been so broken and our lives so painful that we could not open our mouths not only to talk, but we could not sing? Isaiah tells us that all of those situations in God's mercy and kindness will be reversed. And that is a reason for rejoicing, because that comes from the inside out. Who's helped us see better? A friar that I loved most in the world over the years, he's been dead now 10 years, used to say to me, "Are you through complaining?" And I won't use the other words he used, okay? He was the friar who loved me so much that he gave me the proverbial kick in my pants when I needed it. He helped me see and hear better. And when those burdens are lifted from us through the great mercy of God, and often through one another, as we are all forerunners of John the Baptist. You can be Joanna the Baptizer, and I'll be John the Baptist. We have no gender issues here, okay? People help us, and we move forward. And Matthew, we are set free in many ways. That's different than being happy over a new set of golf clubs. And after John's disciples have gone back to him in prison, after Jesus tells them, "Go tell John what you're observing out here. The lame walk, the blind hear, the blind see, people get their sight back, lepers are cleansed, the poor have the good news announced to them." Isn't that reason to rejoice when we realize what's being given to us now and the promises to come? He came in time and he's coming again. And then Jesus tells the crowd, but let me tell you something about John. No one born of a woman has ever been greater than John the Baptist. And that wasn't because they were cousins. That wasn't a family deal. Here was a man inviting others to believe in him, in his cousin, believe in the future, believe things could be better. People could hear, see, walk, dance, and sing again because they were loved by God. And yet he says, but the least in the kingdom of heaven will be greater than John the Baptist. And that's you and me. That's the promise. of the Christ child whose birth we await and will remember during Christmas. And as we prepare for his coming again, those promises will be fulfilled. Do we believe them? Do we want to see? Do we want to hear? Do we want to dance? And do we want to sing from our hearts? It's the promise given to us in Advent and Christmas. What makes you happy? And what possibly leads you to rejoicing?